Welcome friends. Today we are going to start module 4 aerial photogrammetry. Now before going to the further slides, just I want to give the review that what are things we have completed. We finished module 1 where we have seen theodolite and trigonometric surveying and we have solved few problems on that. Then we started module 5 where we have seen remote sensing, GIS, EDM and total station. That is modern surveying instruments we have seen. Now, today we are going to start module 4, that is aerial photogrammetry. And here I am going to divide this aerial photogrammetry in three different parts. Part 1, that what I am presenting today, is all about the aerial photogrammetry and how it is useful in civil engineering field and how you have to apply that. Then we go to the part 2 where we are going to derive few of the derivations related to the photogrammetry, and then in part 3 we solve few problems on the derivations. Now before going to the further in depth about the introduction of aerial photogrammetry, you should understand the background of surveying and how this aerial photogrammetry is going to relate it to the remote sensing, that what we have seen in the previous class. Now if you see this, here in this slide I have shown all the methods to work it on the land surveying, right, related to the land surveying. Now the basic of surveying you should get clear. We know that we can easily classify the survey in two sections. One is plain surveying, another one is geodetic surveying. Plain surveying where the area is less than 250 square kilometer, and in geodetic surveying where the area which is to be worked is more than 250 square kilometer. In plain surveying we are not going to consider the earth's curvature, whereas in geodetic surveying we are going to consider the earth's curvature. Now if you take the basic instruments what I have written here, chain, compass, plane table, ATO level, theodolite, total station, now if you take these instruments it will be very difficult to work it on a larger area, and if terrain difficulties are there then these methods or these instruments are not going to be helpful in that case. Now these instruments you can use, see you can use these instruments in triangulation surveying and you can cover it up larger area, but it takes time and it is a quite lengthy process. With the regular instrument going with the triangulation, no, it will be difficult thing to get the results as no as early as possible. Now that what it is need of today's era, that you can get the result as soon as possible. Now this aerial photogrammetry will give you that easiness to deal with geodetic surveying, whereas this aerial photogrammetry is a part of remote sensing. Now how we define the remote sensing? Remote sensing is the process where you will be acquiring the information about the particular area or object without coming in contact with that particular object or area. Now here in aerial photogrammetry also we are doing the same thing. We are acquiring the information without coming in contact with that particular object, but here we are using the photographs, and by doing the analysis of those photographs we'll be getting the required information. That is how this photogrammetry is related to the remote sensing. Now here you can see this what I have shown here. Now for the land surveying we can use chain, compass, plane table, we can use ATO level, theodolite, dumpy, now total station. Then you will be having GPS, DGPS, RTK, whereas GPS is the no satellite based navigation system, that is global positioning system, and you will be having 3D laser scanning. Now if you take chain, compass, plane table, and these are only for the smaller areas where you can measure the direct distance, so these comes in the method of direct distance measurement. ATO level, theodolite, these are the advanced instrument. If you compare to the that plane table, chain, compass, optical wedged instruments. Now here you can go for the optical distance measurement, right? This we term them as optical distance measurement instruments. Then you'll be having total station, that is modified version of theodolite, electronic theodolite, where surveying with a high precision and range is possible. This we term it as electronic distance measurement. And then you'll be having GPS, that is, as I said, that satellites based navigation system, determination of position and the time is possible. And you'll be having DGPS, that is differential global positioning system, which gives you the high range with a very accurate, this one accuracy is 1 to 3 centimeter. Then you'll be having RTK, that is real time kinematic position. This is also a satellite navigation technique. It is used to enhance the precision of position data. Then you will be having 3D laser scanning. This 3D laser scanning, or LIDAR, you can call it as LIDAR, light detection and ranging, is process of shining a reflectorless laser line over a surface in order to collect the three-dimension data. The surface data is captured by the camera sensor mounted in the laser scanner, which no which you can call it as accurate dense 3D points in the space. So this is how these all things you can use in land surveying, where this aerial photogrammetry is the part of remote sensing. Now that I will show you here. Now you can see that the relation between remote sensing, aerial photogrammetry or aerial photography, satellite imagery and radar or LIDAR. Now if you define the aerial photogrammetry or aerial photography, it is the taking of photographs from an aircraft or by other flying objects. Now this you call it as airborne imagery. The aerial photogrammetry is very useful as it gives you the easiness to work on a larger area, that what I have said previously also, with a precision, and can cover a maximum area with less timing. A photogrammetry is a science and the technology of obtaining the reliable information about the physical objects and the environment through the process of recording, measuring and interpreting the photographics or photographic images and the patterns of electromagnetic radiant imagery. Now this is what the photogrammetry, if you take that word photogrammetry separately, what it says is that is the processing of recording, measuring and interpreting of photographs. Now this is how, and this, as I said, that this is a type of remote sensing where you are not going to be in contact with particular object. Now here you can see that few of the photograph or satellite images you can take to do the analysis. And this picture I have shown a aircraft which is taking the the picture or a photograph of that particular area. Now this, it is having some capacity of coverage with some angle, right? with with respect to the height, that will be fixed with some capacity. Here also see this platform, see it will be having so many platforms, right? Now platform for aerial photography includes aircraft, helicopters, uh, unmanned aerial vehicles, then balloons. It will be having blimps and dirigibles will be having rockets you can use, even pigeons and kites they have used for this aerial photogrammetry. You can have the vehicle mounted with the cameras, or you can fix cameras on the tower. Even handheld camera photos from the elevated portion is also considered as the aerial photogrammetry. Now here you can see this pic shows that a camera mounted to a kite. So you can take these images also. Now this image you can see, you can fix a camera to the tower. Then this image where no this kind of a technique, the camera to the pigeons or to the hawks even, this is very famous in World War 1, World War 2, right? So nowadays also these techniques Few of the countries are using these techniques. So here pigeon with a camera. Now here I have shown the aeroplane that you can see 1 2 3. These are not three aeroplanes. This is single aeroplane taking three different pictures, right? So three different frames it is going to take, and afterwards they are going to merge it as a single frame so that you can do the analysis. Now this is also an image, a photograph taken from a very elevated portion. Then here you can have, see that now you can easily categorically you can differentiate the remote sensing, aerial photogrammetry, and satellite remote sensing, right? Now here you can see the first you'll be having UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, that I'll show you here. That is here, unmanned aerial vehicle. Now it can cover the area of 1.1 kilometer to 100 square kilometers, zero point 0.1 square kilometer to 100 square kilometer. Now, it will be having a height which is less than 3 kilometer. Then you can see the few of the aeroplanes here. Now they will be having the height which is less than 30 kilometer and can cover the area of 100 to 10 to 100 square kilometer here. Then you will be having the satellite imagery. Here you can see that satellite imageries, the satellites you can locate, see, from 500 kilometer to 36,000 kilometer height, right? And it can cover the area, very large area can be covered by these satellites, where they will be having the angle. We can see this angle, right? And they can cover the angle, this angle, more than 81-degree coverage angle will be there with the satellites. Now here you will be having the no different platforms and their respective heights. Now you can see the a drone here. A drone will be working with less than 0.3 kilometer. Even the choppers also working with a less than 0.3 kilometer, and they are capable to record or to get the information by taking the photographs. Then you'll be having the, see, this aerial photogrammetric aircrafts will be there, especially for that purpose only, and they are having at a height of 1.2 to 3.5 kilometer. Then you can have the satellite optical sensor, which is located at 700 to 900 kilometers, right? And SAR, now that SAR is synthetic aperture radar, is a form of radar that is used to create two-dimensional image or three-dimensional uh, reconstruction of object with the finer spatial resolution. Then you can have the space shuttle, that you can take the image from a height of 185 to 575 kilometer. Then you'll be having airborne imagery here, and that also no, you can take the image from 10 to 30 kilometer height. So these are the different platforms and with their respective heights. Now here also I have shown you the different platforms, that also you can see here also, right? So this is also show you the different platform of taking the photographs. Then now the introduction to the photogrammetry. As I said that I defined the photogrammetry. Now the definition of photogrammetry, what I have written here on this slide, is the art, science, and the technology of obtaining the information about the physical object and the environment by photography, by photographic and the electromagnetic images, right? That is how I have defined previously. That is, photogrammetry is the science and the technology of obtaining the reliable information about the physical objects and the environment through the process of recording, measuring, and interpreting the photographic images and patterns of electromagnetic radiant imagery. Now you can easily categorize the photogrammetry. One is metrical photogrammetry, another one is qualitative photogrammetry, or you can call it as photo interpretation. Now the metrical photogrammetry is all about the measurements, obtaining the measurements, determination of positions, elevations, distances, areas, and the volumes. Whereas the qualitative photogrammetry is evaluation of existing features, that is photo interpretation. Now we are going to see the type of photogrammetry. You'll be having three types of photogrammetry. One is aerial photogrammetry, then terrestrial photogrammetry, and close range photogrammetry, that is CRP. Now first, aerial photogrammetry is taking the photographs from the flying object or from some elevated portions or from some elevation. uh, Whereas terrestrial photogrammetry, we use phototheodolites. A phototheodolite is a combination of theodolite and camera, terrestrial camera, mounted on a tripod or even by handheld cameras. Then we'll be having the third type, that is close range photogrammetry, that is CRP. It is simply photographic data collection and processing where the subject is less than 1000 feet away. Even what I have written here is the camera close to the object being observed, most often used when the direct measurement is impractical. Now the photogrammetry for the engineers or for the engineering. The photogrammetry provides an effective tool in the planning, building and ongoing inspection of civil engineering project, where you can have the basic sections of photogrammetry and the modern remote sensing technique also. Now what I have written here in this slide is photogrammetry is the process of measuring the image on a photograph. Then modern photogrammetry also uses radar imaging, that radiant electromagnetic energy detection and X-ray imaging, that calls as remote sensing. Whereas see, this we called as modern photogrammetry, right? Where you'll be having the basic remote sensing, radar imaging, radar radiant electromagnetic detection, X-ray mapping, and use of electromagnetic waves. Now this is everything is there. No, this is what the photogrammetry is going to be contribute in the engineering field. Origin of remote sensing. Now all it started in 1839. The first photograph was taken in 1839, but Gaspar Felix Tornacho, more commonly known as Nadar, is credited with the taking the first successful aerial photograph in 1858 from a hot air balloon tethered or no with a height elevated to 262 feet over the Petit Bessètre. Now, well known now, that village is known as Petit Clamart, just outside the Paris in France. And unfortunately, his original photos have been lost. Well, well, that was the no, that was the first attempt. You can call it as first attempt of remote sensing. Here you can see the pictures uh, taken from the balloon in 1859, and one of the Boston's picture that is of 1860. Then here you'll be having the World War One photograph taken by the aircraft. World War One was a major inputs to the development of aerial photogrammetry. And here see no aerial photogrammetry becomes very common tool for the armies in World War One, even in World War Two also. Now they use this aerial photogrammetry to study the enemy's strategy, enemy's deployment, army's deployment, movement, and the losses, the devastation of the villages, cities, and to study the topography of war zone area. And this is how they used this aerial photogrammetry, and it has during those days it develops a lot. Development of aerial photogrammetry has gone to the maximum level during the World War One and even in World War Two. Now we are going to see the types of aerial photographs. Now, please understand this thing. Types of photogrammetry totally different, and types of aerial photographs are totally different. Now, previously what we have seen is the type of aerial photogrammetry, that is aerial terrestrial and close ranging, CRP. Those are the types of photogrammetry. Now here what we are seeing is types of aerial photographs. So here you can see the different types of photographs, right? Now basically you can classify the aerial photographs based on the verticality to the ground. You'll be having vertical photographs, tilted photographs, oblique photographs. Based on the angle of coverage, you'll be having narrow angle, standard or normal angle, wide angle photographs, and super wide angle or ultra wide photographs. And then based on the film used, filters, and photographic equipments, you can have panchromatic photographs, you can have infrared photographs, then color photographs, color IR photographs, then thermal imagery, radar images. And then based off the lens system, you'll be having single lens and multiple lens system. But for our syllabus, basically we'll be having based on the classification, based on the verticality to the ground, we are having vertical photographs, then uh, you'll be having tilted photographs, and then oblique photographs. Oblique, further they can divide it as low oblique and high oblique photographs. Now if you see the definition of vertical photograph, an aerial photograph taken with a camera axis or optical axis coinciding with the verticality of the ground, right? And if you define the tilted photograph, where you'll be having an aerial photograph which is the camera is unintentionally tilted by a small amount, less than 3 degree from the perpendicular to the ground, right? So that we call as tilted photographs. Now this is an example of vertical photograph. Now this is example of low oblique photograph, and this is example of high oblique photograph. Now, as I said that vertical photograph, you can see here. Now you can see that as I define an aerial photograph taken with the axis or camera axis or optical axis coincides with the ground verticality. See, this is exactly perpendicular to the ground, that we call as a vertical photograph. And if it get tilts unintentionally for less than 3 degree, then we call it as what? A tilted photograph. And oblique photograph, see, an aerial photograph taken keeping the camera axis intentionally tilted from the vertical is known as oblique, intentionally tilted, where you can use this oblique to determine the different heights. There will be having a low oblique and high oblique. Now low oblique, you will be having the photographs in which horizon is not seen and it is tilted to 30 degree, and high oblique in which horizon is seen and it is tilted is up to 60 degree. So you will be having low oblique and high oblique. Now here also you can see this is example of vertical photograph where the no exactly the platform or where the aeroplane will be there or camera will be there exactly on the object, and it is going to take it is in the direction of perpendicular. Camera axis will be exactly perpendicular to the ground. Now here it will be having some tilt, intentionally tilt with a 30 degree, that we call as low oblique, and here it is having intentionally tilt with a 60 degree, right, tilt. So that is how it is going to be there. You can determine the heights by using the oblique photographs. Now here I have shown, see, this is the vertical photograph, right? How you can see there, how you can take the picture where your camera will be exactly on the point, exactly on the location perpendicular to the ground. Now here you will be having a low oblique where, see, the angle will be of 30 degree, right, to the verticality. This is the example of low oblique. Then you will be having the high oblique where the angle is more than 60 degree. Then this is the example of high oblique where you can easily determine the heights of the particular object. Then vertical photographs. Now see, you can no easily map the ground as it will not have any distortion in that. The vertical is most important as it has minimum distortion and can be used to or for taking the measurements. When you will be having the measurement, mapping will be very easy in vertical photograph where you don't have any distortion. Distortion means, see, shifting in position of a landscape feature on photograph that alters the perspective characteristics of the image, that we call as a distortion. There will be two things: distortion and displacement. Displacement, any shift in the position of a landscape feature on a photograph that does not alter the perspective characteristics of image. Now, tilt or photographic relief comes under the displacement, whereas motion of landscape feature and the lens distortion, that is, how the distortion is there. uh, so this is very important. Then you can have the character tilt is less than 3 degree from the vertical, scale is approximately constant throughout the photos, and the most common format is 9 inches into 9 inches photograph. Now this is all the characteristics of a vertical photograph. Now we are going to discuss about the scale measurement, right? uh, that scale measurement and the derivation of the scale we are going to derive in part 2, as I said previously also. Now here, just briefing about the scale I have given is, if you know the focal length of a camera and the height of aircraft above the ground, you can calculate the scale of photograph. That formula I have written here. See this is the formula for the scale, that is f divided by h minus h, where f is the focal length, distance from camera of lens to the center of lens to the film surface, and where capital H is the flight height of aircraft above the sea level, and small h is the height of ground above the sea level. If you know these things, so you can easily determine the scale of a photograph. Now this will show you the relation of the no focal length, that altitude above the ground level AGL, and the altitude above the sea level ASL, right? This is what it shows here, the relation between the focal length AGL and ASL. Now coming to the next slide here, a few of the terminologies you have to understand. I'm going to discuss here about only one term, only one definition, that is about the fiducial marks. Now, if you define surveying, how you are going to define surveying? I always stick with the definition of surveying, right? How you are going to define? Surveying is art of determination of relative position with respect to few reference points, 2 or 3 reference points, right? Now, for any kind of a measurement you require some reference point. Now this, see here, these fiducial marks are the reference points, right? These are the marks on the original films and are used to define the frame of reference for a spatial measurement on aerial photographs. Fiducial mark is a set of mark located in the corners or edges or in center or both on the aerial photographic images. Here I have shown few of the fiducial marks here, right? Even in the corners also you'll be having, see in the corners, right? This is how uh, the fiducial marks will be there. uh, what I have written here is the set of marks located in the corners or edges, centers, or both of an aerial photographic image. These marks are exposed within the camera onto the original films and are used to define the frame of reference for spatial measurement on aerial photographs. Now next term is very important thing, that is flight planning. You can call it as flying pattern. Now there should be a complete coverage with a minimum frame. That what our requirement. Whenever you'll be doing the flight planning, means say aircraft has to move from that particular area, how many time it has to move and how it has to take the frame, right? Now that first thing what we do in the planning is that there should be complete coverage with a minimum framework. Now you can have two systems or overlaps there. One we called as what, longitudinal overlap, another one is lateral overlap. That longitudinal overlap generally we term it as what, overlap. That what I have shown you here. Now this is a general overlap, and you will be having the side overlap, side lap, right? uh, Overlap, a vertical photographic coverage of an area, is normally taken as a series of overlapping flight strips, right, to be taken for the analysis. And whereas a side lap, that is a side lap is overlap of adjacent flight strip, right? This is how the overlaps will be there. uh, Now you can use that now for the 3D analysis, 2D 3D analysis, right? These are very helpful. Now how to do the planning, or how to fix the flying pattern? You will be having some criteria as will be there. It should be plan polygonal or linear flight plan should be there. It should be support for almost any type of cameras or line scanner. It should easy to work with wide range of specified imaging parameters like flying height, pixel size, forward side lap, that is no side or overlap. Then use of terrain model to adjust the spacing between the lines or points to give the complete coverage in the mountainous areas. Then use of terrain model to create the flight plan with flight lines at a different heights to minimize the number of frames. Now that is how the things will be there with this flight planning. Now here I have shown you the flight pattern. One aeroplane will be going like this, and it is going to take a turn, and again it is coming back, but during this process it is going to take the a few frames. See here, you'll be having a frame 1 here, then frame 2 here, and then you'll be having a frame 3, right? So you'll be having 3 frames here. So and while coming also it is going to take 3 frames, right? See, this is frame 1, then you'll be having a frame 2, right? Then you'll be having frame 3. Overlaps of the frames will be there. Now here also I have shown you the no 60 to 70% overlap between the photos, and 20 to 40% overlap between the flight lines. And this is airbase, distance between the principal point of adjacent photographs, that is known as airbase here. Fundamentals of stereoscope. Now that stereoscope is a film, stereoscope is a film technique for creating or enhancing the illusion of depth in an image by means of stereopsis for the no binocular vision. Any stereoscopic image is called as stereogram, where see no sometimes you can call it as stereoscopic imaging, which is a technique used to enable the three-dimensional effect addition, adding an illusion of a depth to a flat image. In aerial photography, when two photographs are overlap, or uh, the same ground area is photographed from two separate positions, form a stereo pair, that we call a stereo pair, used for three dimensioning viewing. Thus, obtaining a pair of stereoscopic photographs or image can be viewed stereoscopically in determining the parallax and stereo 3D viewing. Now here you'll be having the no stereoscopes what previously supposed to used. Nowadays we are having few of the softwares where we can get it done by uh, some of the GIS softwares also. Now parallax measurement. Now you should understand what is parallax first, right? Now, one of the advantage of aerial photogrammetry is that when the photograph is taken as a overlapping pair, that is stereo pair, they can provide 3D view of a terrain, right? The 3D view is made possible by the effect of parallax. Parallax refers to the apparent change in the relative position of stationary object caused by the change in the viewing position, right? Here what things no I just clubbed in few words that displacement of an object caused by the change in point of observation is called parallax. Stereo parallax is caused by the taking photographs of the same object but from the different points of observation. Then the same example I have given of the parallax, right? How it can change from no both the no, from if you're taking the photos from both the views, right? So it will no refer to the apparent change in the relative positions. Parallax, you can see that the same principle can be used to find the height of object in the stereo pairs of vertical aerial photographs. And differential parallax, that is the difference between the stereoscopic parallax at the top and the base of the object, that we call as a differential parallax. These all things we are going to see in the part 2, where we are going to derive that and we are going to solve some of the problems in part 3. Now parallax measurement, here this derivation also we are having in part 2. You'll be having height of object, how to determine the height of object, that is height of aircraft above the ground, into differential parallax divided by absolute parallax at the base of object plus differential parallax, right? For this is how we are going to use to determine the height of object by parallax. And at the end, see, you can refer these books for the further details. You'll be having a textbook of aerial photogrammetry and remote sensing by AB Datta, then manual of aerial surveying by Roger Reed and Ron Graham, that also you can refer. Then a very famous book you are having here, that is textbook of remote sensing and geographic information system by NG Reddy, that is also very useful. And even you can have the BC Punmiya, right, volume 2, that also you can refer, that is also very good book. And this is what from my side about the aerial photogrammetry. If you are having any doubt, you can comment no on my YouTube channel, or even you can call me for further details. This is what from my side. Thank you very much.